my regret is I can't use my basement anymore. It's a dead body down there. And last month when we were all stuck in our houses for days on end because of the snowstorms that were happening, my cat died. And I knew that morning when I got up, I took a look at him and I could see it was his last day. It was definitely, he was a goner. He'd been sick for months, so it was pretty clear that's what was happening. So I pulled his little bed over to the picture window in the family room, and I put a little blanket over him, and I put a larger blanket over that because I was going to snuggle under with him a little bit. And I did. I got under the covers with him, and when I'm there, I'm thinking, I have no idea how long this is going to take. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just catch up on a few back episodes of The Bachelor. I did feel a little crummy about that, but it was the most appropriate one among the choices I had on my DVR. You know, I had like American Idol and Chopped. So round about the middle of the rose ceremony, he died. And I put him in a box, I took him out to the garage, and I put him on top of the car because it was supposed to be below freezing for days. And in fact, it snowed for another day, and we dug out for a day, and it took quite a while before I was able to get a hold of the vet and ask, what do you do with a dead cat when you've got a foot of snow on the ground? And they said, well, for $99, your cat can be part of a communal cremation. Or you can have a private cremation for $179. Or you can put your cat in our freezer, our super freezer, and we'll hold it until spring, and then you can come back and have a proper burial. And I thought, yeah, I would. That's what I want to do. I want to, show respect for my pet. It's such a good little pet, and try to treat his body with respect in the end. And it's just like my former cat, Kitty Latour, who is buried in the backyard. And at the same time, however, I thought, I have a freezer. And it has like a super freeze element on the top. And, I don't really need to borrow anybody's freezer. And I also thought, I grew up on a farm, and there were times we had like more than 22 cats. Half of them didn't even have names. So, it's really not in me to offer sort of extraordinary gestures like professional freezing services. So, I grab the cat, I get off the phone, I grab the box, and I go down to the basement, and I open up the freezer compartment, and I move the burritos in the corner, everything down to the lower compartment. And I start hacking away at the ice with like a screwdriver, and I'm chipping, the ice is flying, and I'm thinking, this actually feels a little dicey. I'm not really sure about this. And I think, well, I'm a trained scientist, nothing can, be a problem. I'm not gonna get sick or endanger the welfare of my family or anything by super freezing my cat, one shelf above the London broil. So I grab the box and I put it on the top shelf there, and before the door is even closed, it is quite clear to me, it is not going to fit. It's like this much. So I'm leaning on it, I'm pushing, I'm like, I really need to get this to happen. And I just shove it shut, and I take the key and I lock it, and it bulges. The gasket, there's a little space there. And I think, well, I wonder how much this would bother me until spring, to see this bulging door and to know that I was sort of risking the contents of my freezer, possibly a decomposing cat. And I decide it's more than I can bear. It's more than I can really manage. And I make the tough decision right then and there that I am going to have to transfer the body to another box, like a freezer-friendly box. And that way I can shut the door. And that is becoming sort of a minimum requirement all of a sudden, is that if you're going to have a dead cat in your freezer, you're going to have to be able to shut the door. So I also am thinking I'm going to have to sort of pretend every time I come to the basement that my dead cat is not on the top shelf, when I'm going to get like ground beef or something to make meatballs. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm considering how many people are likely to come to my basement between now and the spring that I'm going to have to report to them. Watch out for the top shelf. So I think, well, on their behalf, I will label the box. This seems fair. To sort of avoid confusion. But then my cat's name was Carrot. So that's seeming like it's going to maybe have the opposite effect. So I'm a little nervous about, I'm a little squeamish about transferring the body. But I know I can do it. And I step over to the box and I put my hands under it, and I'm going to lift this animal up in one fell swoop so as to minimize the risk of learning, what kind of state he's in at this point a week after he's died. And it's enough to know, really, that he is rigid and very uncat-like right now. So I lift him up and I move him over to this new box that I have positioned here, and I can see right off it's a smidge small. But I set the cat down. There's some persuasion required, and I end up, sort of squishing and forcing and cajoling and what have you. And I get him in, and I shut it, and I tape it shut, and there's a double layer of bags, and put it on the top shelf and shut the door, and, definitely fits. So the big regret in all of this, of course, is, I can't use my freezer, can't use my basement anymore. I can't go down there. I feel like I would rather get in my car and drive over to the grocery store to get the frozen fish sticks than, set foot in my basement. And it's not just that. I got a pantry down there. Like, I can't even think about getting a bag of chips. Like, it's a mess. I don't want to go there. So what I don't regret is, keeping my kitty near me and, not having him be near people that don't appreciate the idea that he would be most at home in this, awkward moment of limbo. In my freezer in my basement. And I know that, I regret this whole thing, except that. That's the one thing I don't regret. And if I had my druthers, I would, dig the hole, cry the tears, say goodbye, and be done with it. But I don't have that choice. So instead, I am waiting impatiently, shovel in hand, staring out the back window at my backyard, which is covered with ice and snow, just hoping, praying it would hurry up and melt. Thank you.